All right, a very good evening from Uganda's capital, Kampala. It's been raining the whole day, quite a chilly day it has been. But thank you so much for making time for this Twitter space today. My name is Solomon Serwanja, and for the next 2 hours, we're going to discuss about something that is pertinent to all of us in Uganda, and that is corruption, but most importantly, the march to parliament that has been organized by young people, by some Ugandans who think that enough is enough. They are marching to parliament to present a petition to the speaker. They have a number of demands that they're putting on the table. If you've been moving around the streets of Kampala today, you might have noticed heavy deployment of both the military and the police everywhere. And of course, this follows the press conference that was given by police yesterday, where the police says that they haven't given permission to protesters or demonstrators to go to the roads or go to parliament. Here's the police spokesperson who spoke yesterday about what they're planning to do. Take a listen. This is Afande Rusoke.
Of transparency and potential for disorder, we strongly warn against proceeding with this march, and the Uganda Police Force is issuing a clear warning against attempts to incite violence or breach of public order through what we have observed as uncontrolled demonstrations.
Well, that is Afande Rusoke Kitwama, who is the spokesperson for police, speaking earlier that they have not given permission to the demonstrators or protesters to go to the streets. Of course, just a few days ago, the president also said that those who are planning to protest will be touching fire. And the president made these remarks while speaking to the nation. Take a listen.
Some of them from opposition are always working with foreigners to foment chaos in Uganda. Riots, illegal demonstrations, illegal and inconsiderate processions, etc. These people are unfair and inconsiderate, and they should check themselves. We shall have no alternative but to check them.
As Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni there speaking earlier about the much anticipated march to parliament, which happens tomorrow. The young people, though, have insisted that they will continue to march to parliament to show their dissatisfaction with the way government has handled corruption, but also corruption that they say cannot be tolerated any further. Some of the organizers of the protests said this earlier in an interview with NTV. Take a listen.
Uganda, you see that we are already set, me and my team. We are going to protest because it is our constitutional right.
Indeed, it's their constitutional right. That's Nansubuga, one of the mobilizers of the protests which are happening tomorrow. For sure, we know that the issue of corruption continues to eat us all as a country, despite the different anti-corruption Uganda loses about 9.7 trillion shillings annually in corruption. Now, that's according to the IGG's report. 9.7 trillion shillings in corruption. Currently, there are over 5,000 cases, corruption-related cases, that have been reported by the Inspectorate of Government. It is also important for us to note that recently, as a result of citizen journalism and some of the people who have led campaigns against corruption, especially the team from Agora and other citizens, there was widespread corruption in Parliament amidst high taxation, amidst our sick health system, amidst all the challenges that you know as a country. This corruption is clear to all of us. I mean, we've had scandal after scandal, scandal after scandal. Consequently, there have been several actions that have been taken by different governments, including the US and the UK, that have slapped sanctions on some top government officials, including the Speaker of Parliament of Uganda, who, in the parliamentary exhibition that was organized by Agora and other citizens, it was clear about how money was being swindled in Parliament. The president recently came out to say that he's taking corruption issues very seriously. And he was looking for evidence, but eventually he says he has gotten the evidence. And recently he had cabinet taken to Chankwanzi, speaking about the issue of corruption. Today we speak about the March to Parliament, which is going on tomorrow. There have been several spaces that have been happening since this announcement came up. And today we want to discuss this issue deeply. On the space today, we have Godwin Toko. Godwin is a lawyer, an anti-corruption activist, but is also one of the lead members at Agora. Godwin is here. Thank you so much, Godwin, for making time. We also have Kano Edith Nakalema. We all know Kano Edith Nakalema, especially in as far as pushing back against corruption is concerned. Kano Edith Nakalema currently is the head of the State House Investors Protection Unit, but before she was the head of the State House Anti-Corruption Unit. Kano Edith Nakalema also has the president's ear. Kano, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for allowing me on this space, and I look forward to an interactive discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kano. Also on the space, we have Yusuf Serunkuma, who is a columnist, scholar, and playwright. He's also an academician. Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma will also be speaking with us today. I also have Professor Jimmy Spire Sentongo, who is an academician, he's a cartoonist, and is also a human rights defender. We'll also be joined by Aaron Kiza, who is a human rights lawyer and poet on the space, as well as Agatha Atuhaire, who is a journalist, a lawyer, and activist. Yusuf is here. So thank you everyone for being part of the space. Also, we'll be joined by Joel Mukisa, who is also a lawyer, and he works with Chapter 4 as well. Thank you very much, everyone, for making time for this Twitter space. Let's start with Godwin. Just a few minutes before we came on air, you tweeted a tweet that was deleted by Parliament, and it read in part that Parliament tweeted, and later, of course, they deleted it, that we have learned that there's a group of activists that want to deliver a petition to Parliament tomorrow, Tuesday. As Parliament, we have not been notified, as is with the rules, since We are a citizen-centered parliament. We are open to receive their petition. That tweet on the official parliamentary account, which is at parliament_UG, was later on deleted. Toko, as part of the team that has been really behind exposing the mass corruption in different quarters, but largely the parliamentary exhibition was one that opened the eyes of many Ugandans, and they are now demanding for accountability with the March to Parliament. Firstly, I wanted you to ground us in what really explains this March to Parliament. Godwin Toko, you're welcome.
Thank you, Solomon, and I'm glad to be here. I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so first, I can't explain much about the March to Parliament because it's not organized by Agora. You rightly said Agora was probably the lead. We led the Parliament exhibition, of course, in concert with so many other citizens out there, and that's all we did. So from that, I think even before the Parliament exhibition, we had a number of exhibitions. There was the one on potholes, there was the one on health, there was the one on security. I could go on and on. But I guess the one of Parliament was that Parliament probably was the most rotten sector of all the sectors we've exhibited, that it took forever, and it is still ongoing up to now. There's just so much. Whenever you think it's done, then you hear the speaker will go to a place like Luengo and make the very, very unfortunate and very unhonorable, very despicable statements like the kind she made in Luengo. Then you have to go back to it. Whenever you think you're done, something else happens in Parliament. Then you hear that in the same year when the government of Uganda couldn't purchase generators for 3 regional hospitals of Kabale, Jinja, and Gulu, hospitals that serve no less than 6 million Ugandans, according to the website of the Ministry of Health. And it took World Health Organization to spend 570 million to buy those 3 generators. In months, a few months later, the Parliament of Uganda had enough money. In fact, it had more money. It spent 570 million to buy only 2 generators of just 80 kilowatts, 80 kVA, while the World Health Organization bought 3 generators, which are much more powerful at 250 kVA for much less. So these things just keep going on and on. Then you look at this and then the people who are calling you imperialists, who are saying you're working for foreign agents, yet it takes foreign agents to buy for the Ugandans generators to save their lives, to help mothers who are delivering in cesarean section, to help children who are being operated, to help the most vulnerable people in Gulu, the most vulnerable people in Jinja and all these other places who come from as far as the greater eastern Uganda, probably from as far as Karamoja. But these 2 individuals, because for some reason they think that they are more human than everybody else, because they think that Ugandans, a country where the GDP per capita is just $964, should blow all that kind of money on their generators. So I guess that should be out of the way, that it's not us leading the match. In fact, we also don't know who is leading the match. In fact, I know that there is a fallacy. There is a lie out there being put that Agora is leading the match. Sometimes I heard the president saying the opposition is leading the match. I think the president is so obsessed with the opposition that many times he misses the big picture. This, from what I've read and what I've heard, is just a group of young Ugandans who are tired of corruption. These are people who went to schools of UPE, where capitation grant is 20,000 shillings per year, and yet at the same time, you know that the Speaker of Parliament, there was a time when they withdrew as much as 2 billion shillings in the space of 48 hours for her to go and do a corporate social responsibility. So those are the people who are leading this match, and I hope that the Ugandan state stops scapegoating people. It looks and realizes that the sand is shifting under its feet. There's a desperate conversation it needs to have with its citizens, and these are the citizens who are leading this match. Now, that being out of the way, let me just pick a few things. Like you rightly pointed out, this country loses close to 10 billion shillings, 10 trillion shillings every year in corruption. That's about 1/5 of the Ugandan budget, yeah? Lost to corruption, lost to people wasting money in the most basic of things and the most stupid of things in a country where people are starving to death. Then, at the same time, you have very, very serious issues. A few months back, our mothers, the KCCA workers, who wake up in the morning to clean the streets of Kampala so it can look a bit less of a slum than it looks right now. You can't find money to pay them. But at the same time, billions and billions are being blown in the name of corporate social responsibility. officials of this government are wearing clothes that would cost as much as 2 million shillings, budgeted fund paid for by the state and the taxpayers of this country. Those are the things that we must discuss as far as this corruption is concerned. Why are we losing this much money, and yet this is the reality of our country? Leaders living larger than leaders, even in the most developed parts of the world. Now, speaking to the issue of blocking the protest, I think the police and the state are overreacting, and that is very, very unfortunate. The law allows people to protest. I have seen my friends at GCIC who I think probably don't understand the law well, and they should have consulted with lawyers, saying that the law is not absolute. In that regard, they are right. But where they miss the point is that when a right is given, when a right is recognized under the Constitution doesn't give rights, it just recognizes them, because those rights are given to us by God, who made all of us in his own image, as the Christians here will believe. When those rights are given to us by the Constitution, it can only be denied under very, very special circumstances. So there's what we call the Siracusa Principles. This is under international law that were developed in 1984 in a place called Siracusa. I think that's in Italy, and were adopted by the United Nations Economic and Social Council. Now, rights can only be restricted where they meet a particular standard of restriction, which is legality, necessity, and proportionality. Now, for people to say that they are going to restrict people from marching because people are going to step on tomatoes in a country, in a city where vendors are not allowed, that is escapist, that is not addressing the real issue. For people to say that you can't march because this right is not absolute, 99% of the rights we enjoy are not absolute. Most of the freedoms we enjoy are not absolute. But the police cannot just come and pick me now and throw me in jail because that right is not absolute. There must be clear circumstances under which they pick me up. Of course, I know that this country does not respect rights anymore. Some group of men went and fought in the bush and said they would make this place less violent when it comes to rights, but more respectful of them, and they haven't done that well. I think they still have enough time. We still have enough time as a country to have those conversations and think of those things for ourselves. Now, I think what is at stake is that the state of Uganda, a group of, most of the leaders of this country are a bit old, above 50, in a country where they have the median age, I think, is now 16. I think there is need for a desperate dialogue between the citizens of this country. The leaders of this country need to sit down and start listening to the young people of this country. Many times when you turn on TV and watch people speaking, leaders of this country, they are dismissive, they are all full of themselves, they talk like, well, there is God up there, I am somewhere next to God, and between me and the next Ugandan there is a mile. So they talk as if they are talking to people who don't matter at all, and that is a very, very dangerous situation. Very many countries have been in that situation in the past, whether you talk of Libya, where Gaddafi had made himself and his family more or less gods at the expense of everyone else in Libya. Now, we do have a country to protect. I believe that for most of us, this is the only country we have. We don't have any other backup plan as far as the country is concerned. But there have been countries in this world that existed and then disappeared. There have been countries that existed, and because they failed at things like dialogue, by the time they realized that they needed to dialogue, everything was lost. We haven't lost everything yet. My only appeal to the leaders of this country, sit down, bring yourself from that high moral ladder you're putting yourselves on, which you don't deserve, living these high lives, and talk to these young people. Are they having genuine concerns? Can the police, for instance, say, tomorrow, we want you to march to parliament, but you're going to guard you. So you're going to secure you so that goons don't take part in this match because you know what goons are capable of. Terrorists don't take part in this match because you know what terrorists are capable of. You're not going to use streets that are close to the markets because you don't want to disrupt the people who are going to the market. Kano Edith Nakalema, he has organized the march before in the past against corruption. Yeah, on that day, I assume the poor wanted to go and trade, the poor wanted to go about their businesses, and the roads were blocked just to allow that. But of course, it was mainly, from what I think, it was a facade, because it's not like corruption has gone down. Corruption has escalated more since then. So I think that now that the citizens themselves, the IGG is on record of saying that for her, she doesn't get affected by corruption so much because when she falls sick, the president will fly abroad, and she said it's not only hide so many people that the president will fly abroad and they'll get the best medical treatment. Of course, we pay for it, but no problem. So now that the citizens are saying, we whose money is used to take you abroad, we who are not taken abroad, in fact, you go abroad at our expense and to our own detriment, can we also march against corruption? It is going to be a lost opportunity tomorrow if the police go with this mentality they have taken of crushing people, of killing people's children, of imprisoning people, and that is not going to help anyone. So we are at a point where we need this firm dialogue, people bringing their views. Corruption probably benefits people in the short run. I don't know if it benefit people in the long run. It could even just be a facade. The president can just pretend tomorrow and say, okay, I've heard you. Now you march to parliament, but I'll get your petition or something like that. That is all it takes. And then we have a future that we can discuss about as we go forward. I think Solomon, in the interest of time, maybe I could first pause here and then let other people speak. Maybe I'll come back later.
Godwin, thank you. One of the things that really got us by shock is the revelation that we spent about 532 million shillings of taxpayers' money to fence and purchase compound lights for the private home of the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Mong in Bukedia. Of course, that's not to say the 500 million shillings generator that you mentioned. Honorable Taewa came out to say that the government decided to buy that generator for him because there was a breach of security at his home. It's just interesting what happens. I also need to mention that, yes.
Just a second, if I could speak to that. One, the point of the generators, first of all, I think it is wrong that the Ugandan state is buying generators for officials who earn that much in their private residences. Yeah, this is not a generator for parliament. This is for their private residences where they stay. That is one. If there was a security breach at the speaker's home, let us assume that a generator is being bought. Why are they buying a generator that costs that much? And like if you compare it, like I have, with the generators bought by World Health Organization, which were, is it 4 or 3 times more powerful, but cost much less? So me, what I think is here is that there's this normal corruption we talk about that is easier to discern. But because the Ugandan state is now at a place where people have justified corruption so much, it is even legalized to the point that some of these things are passed in the national budget. They are justified by a vote of parliament. And you could see that they have green all through. There's no amber, there's no red anywhere. But then still, when you sit down to think about it, when you look at it critically, you see that this is a case of corruption because just the prices alone will show that there is something amiss. But then before I finish this point, I want also to inform you that I had forgotten to tell you that I'm going to be the one representing Agora. My other colleagues may not join due to other engagements.
Thanks a lot. I think Agatha is also on the call, so maybe she has asked that you come in later. Thank you very much, Godwin. I need to remind the people listening on this space that in June, June 2022, we discovered that we used about 2.4 billion shillings to procure 2 cars for the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker. But those are things that have come up very strongly during this campaign against corruption and misuse of public funds. I think as we wait for my other panelists, already we have Yusuf Serunkuman and Honorable and Kano Edith Nakalima. Maybe let me bring in Kano Edith Nakalima here. You headed the State House Anti-Corruption Unit that exposed corruption.
Yes.
You are right now heading another State House Investor Protection Unit under State House. Again, it is there because the president felt like they were cheating investors. The president, in his words, also mentioned that there are people within State House that are also corrupt and people have to pay to see him. He has candidly come out to say he is aware of corruption. Ugandans feel the president has not done enough to really fight this corruption. And they are going to the streets tomorrow. Kanro Edith Nakalema, you led a protest back then, I think it was 2019, against corruption. Wouldn't it be fair that under the same spirit, you join the Ugandans to march to parliament and demonstrate in a peaceful way on a cause that is very close to your heart? Kano Nakalima, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Solomon. And I want to thank my brother Toko for elaborately explaining his heart and maybe representing many others. I want to agree with the concerned young and maybe old people who are organizing this march. But I have a question, and I will speak as a security person or as a soldier to be much clearer. I want to speak as a soldier, yes, who was given a task under the Constitution Article 99(4) of the Constitution gives President powers to delegate his authority to officers subordinate to him. And in that regard, he deployed me to head the anti-corruption unit that he established. And indeed, we organized the very first anti-corruption walk in Uganda on the 4th of December 2019. In this regard, I really want to ask, in the march that is being organized, the march to parliament that we are discussing now, who should the state hold accountable? Because everything done, someone must take responsibility. It can be an individual, or individuals, it can be institutions or agencies. Now that we have many Ugandans who have not officially come out to say we are going to march. Our route is going to start from here. We are based in this place, or we are so and so. We will be coming from these directions. How will us in the security prepare for them? I also want to say that yes, um, the, the Constitution allows demonstrations. Our Constitution, which is the supreme law in the land, allows demonstrations. But just like our colleagues in GCIC put it, that law is not absolute, I want to agree with them. Because if you are going to say, yeah, we have our right, and not everything is done in this country or in many other countries is according to the law, who again should one lean on to say that we will protect these people because it's their constitutional right? And I also want to appeal to you friends and comrades preparing the demonstration, that until you prove to security or agencies of the state your clear your clear routes, your clear maybe destination also. Okay, maybe the destination in this regard could be paramount, but how will you be protected? Because us in the security takes top priority in everything that is to be done, or that is being done, or that has been done before. We must ensure that everyone is protected with their property. That's why His Excellency the President was referring to the women and be men and children who are on the roads doing their businesses, referring to those selling tomatoes and any other. If you're saying we are coming up to demonstrate, yes, you could be referring to the constitution, and every citizen has a right to their opinions. We don't argue much about that, but we have a duty to protect everyone wherever they are. And our country hasn't gone to the levels of having demonstration fields. So now that we don't know where the demonstrators will, for example, converge, which directions they are they'll be coming from, or they are to take, it is a concern. And us in security, we in unison or in agreement, we are saying, isn't it better for the demonstrators to engage with the officers and say, these are our complaints, follow them up and conclude them? Yes, to answer your question, Solomon, we all are tired of corruption, and we have been fighting corruption. But corruption is everywhere, and it is a responsibility of every citizen. And again, the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda holds each citizen responsible to fight corruption wherever they are. So if our friends on this space are saying their way to fight is through demonstration, can we then plan together and know which which direction are they coming from? Who is leading? Where do they want to converge? They have, and we'll see how whether this demonstration is going to have results. I will account if we reach to that. If you ask me to account for the work that we are doing or have been doing or did before and continue to do it. Solomon, have I answered your question?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'll maybe give you another question, but I thought I would first take a round through my panelists. Agatha, you've heard it from Kano Edith Nakalema that as a member of the security system, the protesters are supposed to get permission and they have to be protected as they protest. But going from her submission, looks like it's not green lights for the protesters to go on. But you've also heard that Kano Edith Nakalema as well has said she's very passionate about fighting corruption. Let me bring you in. The march is on to Parliament tomorrow. The security forces are saying no. Ugandans feel they are tired of fighting corruption because they are not being heard. Agatha, you're one of the people who has been at the center of pushing back against corruption, especially in Parliament, and perhaps that's one of the things that explains why Ugandans think that they should send this petition to Parliament. Would love to hear your views on the protest tomorrow.
Uh, Hi, Solomon. Good evening to you and everyone. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes. So I don't know where to start from. I think I should start from a few of the comments of Kano Edith Nakalema that you also highlight. The first being about the march to Parliament and how they need to get permission and protection from the security agencies. I have a call coming in, but you can hear me still. There must have been an interruption.
Yes.
Okay, let me first state it clearly, as I think my colleague did, that Agora is not behind the march to Parliament. We were asked about, we saw that the organizers of the march were using information we have shared on our flyers about the abuse of funds in Parliament and budget corruption that has been going on. And I think we were at the beginning contacted. We talked to the people that contacted us, and I said, for me, how I understand my role and the role of the team at Agora is in bridging that information gap, that we understand our role in this struggle against corruption as putting accurate information right there and information that can be acted upon. Ideally, you would expect the party or the body acting upon that